Well, once again, the Lions' inconsistencies strike again. Even though the offense actually put together two consistent games for once, it didn't help, though, that this week it was the defense's turn to once again lay another egg. Just this defense has not been the same ever since that Giants game. Because this defense was balling out, and then the Giants game ended up being the turning point for this defense. This defense has not played well since that game. Kind of sucks, too, because that has put the offense in positions where they have to play near perfect to win the games. And the offense, as good as they were, it was not even nearly perfect, though. And that sucks, too, because the Lions dominated the first half against the Rams, had the Rams right where they wanted them, and let them escape into the woods. Before we talk about the frustrations from this Lions-Rams game, let's talk about what else happened in Detroit sports this week.
Detroit basketball!
So, starting off with the Pistons. Well, the Pistons, they only had one game this week on Friday against the Hawks. Mainly the Pistons had this entire week off because, actually a lot of teams did too, because this week was the final rounds of that stupid NBA Cup play in-season tournament thingy. Which is so fucking stupid. Like, honestly, I don't even care about that in-season. I haven't even watched any of the semifinal games for the in-season tournament. Because the NBA Cup means fucking nothing. The only championship that matters is the Larry O'Brien trophy that's handed out in June. Which is what the Pistons should be more focused on than a meaningless in-season tournament stupidity. But the Pistons, though, Despite that drama going on and that distraction, the Pistons were able to take care of business at home against the Atlanta Hawks in their one game this week. Just absolutely dominating them in a high-scoring game, where in one of the rare times Atlanta was a team that could score 115 in a game and still lose. And lose by double digits, too, by almost 27 points. But yeah, Pistons dropped 142 on them, and that's with everyone not really producing that much. Like, honestly, the highest scoring player from that game was Isaiah Stewart off the bench with 17, as Cade had only 15 points in that one. So really, despite it, though, it was really just everybody equally contributed in a way for that win. But Pistons, even despite playing one game this week, they kept it rolling. And they got the job done at home against Atlanta to go to 20-5. And they still atop of the Eastern Conference, 2 games now ahead of the Knicks. And they're currently 6 games ahead of Cleveland in the division. So the Pistons continue to keep it rolling. As now with that in-season tournament now back in the rearview mirror, now the Pistons, now we can go back to playing real basketball and trying to get geared up for possibly a great run in the later half of this year. But yeah, and of course, Pistons still need a little more, as we'll have to see what they possibly could go after. There have been the rumors about Anthony Davis, although take it with a grain of salt. Because any rumors you hear about in the trade markets, you gotta take it with a grain of salt. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially with the deadline coming up in a couple months. But the Pistons looking like they're gearing for a move. Who will that move be? Time will tell. Now on to the Red Wings, as the Wings had a pretty successful trip out west in the Western Canadian road trip, with a stop in Chicago at the end, which we'll get to that after. As, of course, the road trip started with the game in Vancouver. The Wings completely dominated the Canucks and shut them out 4-0. Well, they were playing the Canucks, which are currently the worst team in the league, so they did what a good team does, and they took a bad team in Vancouver and made them look bad. So good on Detroit for that. And then Detroit really continued that momentum straight into Calgary. Even despite Calgary's best efforts to come back from a 4-0 deficit late. Calgary would get it down to 4-3, and that'd be as close as they get, as Detroit would hang on to winning Calgary 4-3. As once again, Detroit continues to dominate the Flames. I believe that's like 6 or 7 wins in a row Detroit has had on Calgary. Just so far, Detroit has had Calgary's number. Man, I'll be honest, that 6-7 game winning streak on the Flames, that would honestly mean a lot more if Detroit still played in the Western Conference. Sadly, that's not the case. They play in the East. And sadly, that kind of doesn't mean anything when you only play the Flames twice a year. compared to the teams you face in the East, where you play teams in the East like 3 or 4 times a year, depending on division and conference. But sadly, the road trip would have a bit of a bumpy patch in there with a big loss at Edmonton. As, let's be honest, out of the 3 Canadian teams out west, Edmonton is easily the best of the 3, hands fucking down. Especially with Edmonton finding their stride, and they just completed a big trade with Pittsburgh to get Tristan Jarry in exchange for Stuart Skinner. So they kind of replaced one trash can with another trash can. You replace trash with trash. I don't know if that will get you over the hump or not, but time will tell. But yeah, you know, just a tough loss in Edmonton. Would have been cool to sweep all 3 Canadian teams that sweep that Western Canadian road trip. But, you know, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Got 5 out of possible 6 out Western Canada. I know some people are going to question saying, oh, how come the Waynes don't struggle against Edmonton but do well against teams like Florida? Well, that's because, you know, the Waynes are more built to face teams like Florida. You know, plus I mentioned before, there are some teams you match up well against and some teams you don't. And yeah, that should answer your question right there. Plus also, in terms of matching up better against Florida compared to Edmonton, well, let me just say this. The Waynes play at Florida 4 times a year. Plus, Florida is in Detroit's division, too. While Detroit only plays Edmonton twice a year. It used to be 4 times a year back in the days when the Waynes used to play in the Western Conference, but those days are no more. But the Waynes would at least end the road trip on a solid by getting a big shutout win and beating the crap out of Chicago. Even Patrick Kane going again his 499th goal. Too bad that wasn't goal number 500. I honestly wanted Patrick Kane to get goal number 500 in Chicago. Sadly, just not everything goes according to plan, so don't worry, Kane will get to that 500 goal plateau. Sadly, it won't be against Chicago. Just don't worry, Kane, you'll get there someday. But yeah, got a big win against the Blackhawks, as the Waynes got 8 out of a possible 10 points this week. Just very solid hockey overall. No, actually, they got 6 out of a possible 8, my bad. Unless we don't want to count that game in Seattle too out west, but anyway. Point I'm trying to make is Detroit had a really successful road trip. They've won now 4 of their last 5. And now Detroit is tied for first in the Atlantic with Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay has the tiebreaker right now. So Detroit currently second in the Atlantic at 18-12-3. So Detroit now once again in the up and down roller coaster ride they've had in these early parts of the NHL season. They're really starting to turn around now in the second quarter. But keep in mind, there's still a lot of hockey to go, even though we are closing in on the halfway point of the season. And we still got the Olympic break and all that still left to go. And plus, a lot of the Olympic rosters are going to get finalized out by the end of the month. But I mean, in terms of Red Wings at the Olympics, I mean, I imagine Larkin is most likely a lock to make Team USA. I imagine Lucas Raymond and Simon Edvinsson will most likely be on Team Sweden, with maybe Axel Sand and Pellikka going to be a possible player on Sweden too. And maybe the Brinkat being a possible player on, being a possible player on Team USA. And I'll be honest, Moritz Seider is easily a lock for Team Germany. I'll have to double, I believe Germany should be in the Olympics for hockey. But yeah, it'll be interesting. But let's be honest, we all know the gold medal matchup's probably going to be Canada-USA again. If Canada and USA don't meet in like the quarters or the semis or some shit. All I say is, please, hockey gods, make sure that we have Canada-USA as the gold medal game for the Olympics. Just so the Americans have a chance to get a rematch, so they can shut the fuck up about the goddamn Four Nations thing. Which, by the way, the refs didn't rig it for Canada, especially when the refs didn't call fucking anything in that game last year. So shut your mouths already. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Olympics stack up. Although a lot of players have concerns about the ice since it's pretty fucking narrow for NHL standards. But hey, if McDavid says it's good enough, then who the hell are we to argue? Now to the Lions and Rams game, and well, this game for the Lions, it started off very strong. But of course, as we've all said before, it doesn't matter how you start, it's always how you finish. And the Lions, even though they started this game off very strong, they did not finish that way. As the first half of this game, the Lions completely dominated the Rams. Like, it was just... like, the Lions were just having their way with the Rams and doing everything they needed to do. Especially Aiden Hutchinson coming in with the big interception return right after Jake Bates whiffed a field goal. Too bad Hutchinson couldn't return that for a pick six. He would have got there if he didn't get tackled around the 20. Like, if he didn't get tackled there, Hutchinson would have been gone. Like, I thought Hutchinson was going to get a pick six on that. Especially with how much he hauled ass. So, yeah. So, yeah, Hutchinson actually played well, too. Like, offense played well. Like, throughout the game, offense played well enough to win. But the defense, especially in the second half, was pretty bad. Like hell, you can't even, but of course, will anyone blame the defense or the Lions for lack of adjustments at halftime? No. What they'll do, though, is blame the goddamn refs for this game, because it's the refs' fault the Lions lost. Like, honestly, if this was every once in a while for the fans blaming the refs, I would probably let it slide and be like, it happens. But here's the thing. This fan base has been blaming the refs for every single loss. This has been a theme for every loss this year. Where the fan base just can't accept they got beat straight up. They have to blame somebody. Somebody else has to be blamed for it. Whether it's the refs, or Jared Goff, or Dan Campbell, or the strength and athletic trainers for the amount of injuries we have, which that's not their fault. There's only so much they can do. Most of the Lions' injury concerns and issues, that falls on the players for not taking care of themselves on and off the field. It's not like the players are equally to blame for that. When they can't take care of their bodies on and off the field. Like, there's only so much they can do. It's up to the players to take advantage of what everyone tells them to do. But yeah, like I would just say this: it's not the refs' fault that Jake Bates whipped on a field goal attempt to open the game. That's on Detroit. It's not the refs' fault that the Lions at the start of the second quarter stalled out in the red zone and had to settle for a field goal instead of a touchdown. That's on the Lions. Also, it's not the refs' fault that the Lions blew a 10-point first half lead in the second half. That's on Detroit. Because with 30 seconds left till half, Detroit was up by 10 at one point. Plus, at halftime, the main reason the Rams were able to come back the way they did, because in the second half, the Rams did this magical thing called making adjustments. And it worked to perfection for the Rams. You can't fault the Rams for that, even despite the lack of penalties they had. And listen, that one Rams touchdown, that was ruled a touchdown, but should have been ruled 1 yard short. You can complain about that and say it isn't a touchdown all you want. The Rams were still probably going to score in that on probably the next play or two regardless. Just because the defense couldn't stop anything in the second half. Like, couldn't even stop the goddamn run game. Just defense struggled throughout this game. Like, there's not much the offense can really do when you have to play damn near perfect with how bad the defense has been, especially. And in terms of defensive injuries, well, most of the defensive injuries are on the secondary. Because most of the Lions' front seven are still here. Like, you still got Hutch. You still got Aleem McNeil. You still got Malcolm. You still got Derek Barnes. You still got Alex Anzalone. You still got Jack Campbell. Like, you got 5 of your front 7 still there. DJ Reader, if you want to throw him in there, too. Like, you still got your front 7 still healthy. Like, most of the Lions' injuries are mainly on the secondary and parts of the O-line. But, yeah, just absolute struggle from the defense in the second half. Like, offense played good enough to win, but defense, this game is 100% on the defense. Even though the offense had some issues, especially at the start of the second half. Like, you want to know what doesn't help the Lions in this game? Having 3 straight 3-and-outs to open the second half. Just offense just could not get anything going to start the second half, which is what led to the Rams coming back and the Lions putting themselves in a 10-point hole they couldn't dig out of. Actually, it ended up being a 14-point hole late until Detroit cut it down to 7, which would only make the game look closer than it actually was, because even despite the Lions cutting down to 7 with 2:42 left, did that eventually help the Lions come back and win? Absolutely not. Also, what didn't help Detroit in the second half was J-Mo dropping a crucial catch that would have possibly gave the Lions a touchdown. Like, that drop was a big blow for the Lions. Even despite the Lions starting off this game well, they had the Rams right where they wanted them and let them escape into the damn California sunset. Just started off strong, but a very disappointing end. And honestly, in terms of where the Lions are right now at this point of the season, they honestly have no one to blame for themselves. And of course, though, with the Lions falling to the Rams and the Rams winning, the Rams have officially become the first team this year to clinch a playoff spot this year. So, of course, Ram fans, accept this playoff-bound clip I have for you as a crow. And here's your reward for being the first team to punch your ticket in. So yeah, and with Detroit losing, what doesn't help with this loss was San Francisco and Chicago both winning. So in terms of the wild card race, Detroit now a game and a half back behind Green Bay. Like, the only thing Detroit had to go right for them today was Green Bay losing to Denver, which leads to Denver clinching their spot in the playoffs. Speaking of Green Bay, I do want to send my prayers to Micah Parsons. An ACL injury sucks. I feel sorry. I feel bad for Micah. That sucks for him. Wish him a speedy recovery. But at the same time, though, it is karma, though, for Packer fans, because there are a lot of Packer fans that were celebrating Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph both potentially having season-ending injuries. And all I say to Packer fans is, karma's a bitch. You reap what you sow, partner. Honestly, that's why you don't celebrate injuries, because it may happen to you when the shoe's on the other foot. But yeah, prayers to Micah Parsons, though. Honestly, today was a bad day for football with Parsons' ACL injury and then Patrick Mahomes' ACL injury, too. Also prayers to Mahomes, too. That sucks for Mahomes. That sucks for Mahomes. Yeah. And also, prayers to Christian Watson, too, because he possibly has a season ender as well. But yeah, it sucks. Injuries are part of the game, but it sucks, man, when they do happen. Injuries do suck. But yeah, Detroit, though, they're now 2 games out. Honestly, Detroit's playoff odds are now gone down to 41%. If Detroit won this game, they would have had about a 73 to 75% chance of making the playoffs. Now they're at a 40 to 41% chance of making it in. For Detroit to make it in, they effectively have to win their last 3 games to have any chance. They need to win their last 3 games, and then they're going to need outside help to possibly make the playoffs. And honestly, being in a position where you need outside help at this point in the year, that's honestly the worst position you could possibly be in at this point in the season. Honestly, you should never be in a position where you need to rely on outside help to make the playoffs. And honestly, with how inconsistent the Lions have been the last couple months, the Lions have no one to blame for themselves but putting themselves in this damn situation. Just absolutely frustrating overall, especially since they can't string together back-to-back wins or a consistent streak of any kind. Literally, ever since the Chiefs game, ever since around the Chiefs-Bengals game, it's just been a pattern of win, loss, win, loss, win, loss, win, loss. Just a very consistent pattern of win one game and then lose another game. So once again, next week, Detroit's got to bounce back against the Steelers. And potentially the Lions' last home game of the season next week. Depending on what happens in terms of the playoffs and playoff seeding. But yeah, pretty frustrating overall. Lions had this game in the first half, but Rams showed why they're one of the top teams this year. Even despite some flaws from the Rams, Like, honestly, in terms of the playoff picture, it's really hard to pay attention to that playoff picture. Because the playoff picture is going to flip every single week. Because every single team in the playoff pictures for both the AFC and the NFC, every single team in that playoff picture for both conferences this year have looked like dog shit at one point or another, or have looked pretty fraudulent at the same time. Like, every single team has flaws. Like, honestly, in terms of the playoffs this year, it's extremely wide open in the AFC and the NFC. Like, I think it's extremely wide open possibly for who gets to represent each in the Super Bowl. All I say is for the AFC, though, it will be a new champion, though, since the Kansas City Chiefs have been eliminated from playoff contention, which, I'll be honest, I'm kind of surprised the Chiefs got eliminated. Like, believe me, I knew the Chiefs had a lot of flaws, and the Chiefs had showed a lot of signs of regression, but never in my wildest dreams did I think they actually missed the playoffs. But yeah, I think a lot of people are just glad the Chiefs are missing the playoffs. Outside of Mahomes' injury, I think a lot of people are just glad the Chiefs are missed the playoffs because now we'll have somebody new on the AFC side representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. But all I say is with the Chiefs out, the Bills have no more excuses this year. It's put up or shut up. But yeah, for the Lions, though, if they want to have any chance of possibly going to Super Bowl 60 and having a shot at that with 60th Lombardi Trophy in Santa Clara, California, 3 games left, and you're going to need some help. And honestly, that's the worst position to be in. But yeah, anyway, best advice I can say is move on. Congrats to the Rams fans. And yeah, on to Pittsburgh next week. I'm out.